Hybrid is here to stay. It is the future of work, so embrace it.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of MPN Expert Highlights. I'm Emma Ridgey, the director of My Professional Net, here with Jaime Chambron, and today we're going to talk about some productivity tools for the future of work and the workplace. Jaime, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, I'm Jaime Chambron, and I've spent over the last 20 years building and transforming teams at multiple organizations globally, everything from teams of 1 to 3 to hundreds, and in different capacities, from all being in an office to being fully remote to hybrid. Nowadays, I am a coach and consultant to business owners on how they can build and transform their own teams to improve performance.
Awesome. I think your background is going to bring an interesting light for our subscribers. Let's start off, and I'm interested to hear, as we all, I'm sure, have been impacted by the pandemic over the last couple of years. So I'm interested on what the impacts of the pandemic on workplace technology might be.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, besides more and more virtual conferencing, so, hopping on Teams or Zoom, so video conferencing has accelerated in use. More and more tools to enable asynchronous work is also being put in place, maybe a Microsoft Online or Google Suite, so that people can collaborate and do work asynchronously. Versus when they were in the office together or in a room together. So I think you're seeing more and more of those tools be here to stay and continue to be integrated in the workflow of getting work done.
As you just mentioned a little bit, as for the future, as we continue on, do you think that hybrid work, regardless of when pandemic ends and when more people go back to the office if they haven't already, do you think that hybrid is going to be something that's here to stay in the future?
I do, especially, one, to be a differentiator in the workplace, and two, just people realizing the work that we do doesn't have to be done completely in the office at the same time, because there's work that we do that requires collaboration, where, yes, being together is the best way to go, is fantastic. But there's times where we really need time to think or produce something independently. And if there's a way that you can think through and structure your work week where you have specific intentional times to collaborate together, but then give people the opportunity to work independently so they can get their work done, I think you're going to see that a lot more as companies really embrace this hybrid opportunity.
And so I'm wondering also, there's so many different forms of technology, whether it's, apps that we use to collaborate or ways to communicate. So I'm wondering the biggest things that you think are those sort of tools that can help us to collaborate, be effective in our work as we keep going through this hybrid system.
Yeah. So, and obviously there's a ton of tools out there. I think the biggest thing is picking a tool and to go with it and don't get overloaded with the tool. So you might be a Microsoft shop, so you're going to probably go with Office Online. You're probably going to go with Microsoft Teams. I believe Yammer is part of that suite as well. So those are like, set your sights on a set of tools or a specific tool and just stay with it, because they're all very similar and do similar things. But I think you need to have a way to video conference, a way to communicate like a Slack, and a way to collaborate on products like a Google Suite or a Microsoft Office. Those are the three to start with. Obviously, there's a lot more things around day-to-day task management and having tools to do that, and program and project management. But just to foster that collaboration, those are the basics. There's a lot more advanced technologies coming out now to help provide that presence in the virtual world. But got to start with the basics of communication and collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. And that actually gave me a thought as you were talking. I know something that a lot of people probably struggle with is keeping track of the way that they are keeping track of their work, if that makes sense. Because I know there's probably a lot of people, and for me too, that use different platforms for different things. So do you have any tips on how kind of to keep that in the front of your mind as you're to kind of keep it organized, whether it's as a manager or, anyone that's working?
Yeah, so for a manager per se, it's really easy as, it could be an Excel sheet or a Google sheet. It could be a little more intricate sheet like a smart sheet as a tool to manage what needs to get done. So those are just like really simple, basic tools. There's more advanced project management tools out there to manage the work being distributed across the team. There's Rike is one, there's Monday.com, there's Asana. Again, there's so many tools out there, and it's more of pick the one that makes the most sense for you, that's easy for you to use to get started. And if things get to be more complex or you need something to manage a more complicated workflow, then look into those more advanced tools to help you.
Most of our subscribers are design professionals, architects, and engineers, and they work in pretty small firms. So I can imagine with all of these different tools, it could probably be daunting to try to pick the best one that is, that would work for you. So do you have any just tips when faced with that decision on how to kind of sort through?
Yeah, I think especially for small businesses, pick the tool that is probably the easiest and least expensive to start with, and that you see caters to SMB small businesses. Because a lot of these are more for big enterprises. And so I would just don't spend a lot when you're just starting out, when maybe a year from now you might outgrow the tool and need something a little more sophisticated. So start with, low cost, least expensive. A lot of these you can trial. You can start with just one or two people in a very low cost and sometimes even free. Get used to it, see if it works for you. And if not, pick a different one.
Something a little bit kind of to go along with maximizing your productivity, especially for small businesses, kind of on the other end of the coin. What I can imagine is that maybe as a small business owner or someone that works in a small business, you see some of these tools and you imagine that they're for a business that's larger. Again, it kind of seems daunting. And so maybe they're thinking, I don't need to invest in these sort of tools. So do you have anything that could kind of combat that? Anything you would recommend for people that might be thinking that they don't need to invest because they are so small?
Yeah, I would just understand what you're not getting done efficiently. I think a lot of these tools will help you be more productive. And so think about like, where are you struggling or spending too much time and effort, to see if a tool that helps with automating some of your to-do workflow as someone gets something done and it gets handed off to someone else. I would just think about things in your workflow of getting your jobs done, of what could you streamline by bringing in a tool like this.
I think that's great advice, because I think there are a lot of, small business owners that really have trouble dictating what to invest in versus what not to invest in, what's too much, what's too little. So I think that's really great advice. And
And
before oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to add, it's also great, and from the perspective of, getting them bought in to use the tool, is to tell the employee or the colleague it's going to save you time, right? It's going to, or,
Right.
take off your plate the tasks you don't like doing because it's now automated.
Yeah, definitely. And so before we wrap up, I think this is a great introduction to some of the tips that you have to offer. And I think, an upcoming podcast episode, I think we could really delve into those different tools that you had mentioned. So I just want to say for our subscribers, definitely look out for that, because I think it's going to be a really good episode. But just to kind of wrap up in a summary, what would you say maybe the top 3 bullet points that we talked about that you would really want our subscribers to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one, hybrid is here to stay. It is the future of work. So embrace it, which, second point is really understand how your work is structured through the week, not just you personally, but your team, the workflow, what gets done, what needs to be done independently, what needs to be done as a team. So you can embrace and roll out a structure to enable people to continue to work from home in that independent worker mindset, versus when they really need to be in the office to be together and collaborate and produce a work product. So I think that's number 2 takeaway. And the third takeaway is, leverage these tools that are out there. Oftentimes they're free to start, especially for small businesses, to keep people connected when they aren't in the office, and even when they are, to help them not just stay connected, to get work done asynchronously, and to find ways to be more efficient and effective in your day-to-day work.
Awesome. Again, I think that is great advice and opens the door to a lot of really interesting conversations in the future. For our subscribers, if they want to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, the easiest is just to find me on LinkedIn. You can look me up by my last name, Chambron. Also, you can find me at impactoceans.com.
Perfect. I will include those links in the description of the video and also on the screen, so they will easily be able to find you. Thank you so much for joining me, Jaime. I think this is a great conversation, and I look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Great. Thanks for having me today.